Grand Rising, everyone. I just wanted to share. I don't really know where this is gonna go, but I hope the Father uses this to just encourage somebody. But so I'm finishing my barber hours, and last year's filled with a handful of health concerns, and it was scary in the middle of the pandemic. And one of the themes of this situation, one of the themes of this year has been wait on God, and have a yes in your heart, you know. And this past year has been so dark at times. I didn't know if I would make it through. If I'm honest, I didn't know. And so one night I wake up, and I was taking a medication for my heart, and I ended up having a surgery, so I didn't have to take this medication for the rest of my life. I hated how it made me feel. It gave me very dark thoughts, graphic thoughts, even thoughts of suicide. And in that process, I got COVID. In that process, winter just dropped on us here in Minnesota. And because I had COVID, I was quarantined for 3 weeks straight by myself in a dark, lonely basement with the most graphic suicidal thoughts. And it was probably the beginning of the darkest season of my life. And the reason I say that is, you know, fast forward maybe 4 months, I get the surgery, I start school. The night before I start barber school, I wake up in the middle of the night, my heart's racing 180 beats per minute, and I don't know why. And I've stopped the medication, and I'm afraid like this is yet again the end. Many times been faced with scenarios throughout this season where it felt like this is the end. And so I get out of the hospital, they release me, and now I'm like, now what? You know, you feel very alone. And I'll say this, in some seasons it seems like we may over-spiritualize very practical things. In other seasons it may seem like we under-spiritualize very practical things. And so, you know, haven't eaten in like 3 days, haven't slept in like a couple weeks, and I'm talking sleep, not 2 hours of am I even sleep, and very graphic thoughts, even hearing voices or seeing things, you know. And sometimes it's hard to know where you begin and where the trauma ends, or the other way around. Sometimes it's hard to know where you begin and the trauma does. Sometimes the things that we go through are so ingrained in us that if God ought to deliver us, these things that are so deep would feel like they were splitting us in half. And so I get how people who struggle with addiction struggle. I get how people who struggle with certain mindsets and thoughts never get free. I get it. I understand. I've seen people die in their addiction. I've seen people, and it doesn't have to be substance. It could be a relationship. It could be a habit, you know. And so, haven't eaten, haven't slept, scared, terrified, graphic thoughts, you know. And I feel like I'm supposed to still go to barber school. So like 3 hours later, I pick myself up, if that's even possible, and just go to barber school. And for some reason, the first day was like so peaceful. I'm tired, I'm sleepy, no food that day. Everything's new. Like most days I was scared to leave my house. you know? And the reason I've told this video is because sometimes in this life, you have to move forward. You have to go forward, even in the midst of, I may perish. Even in the midst of, this may be my last. I think of maybe David before Goliath, or Esther before the king, or the children of Israel before Egypt's army. A lot of times just the going, the step forward is the breakthrough. A lot of times, there's a song, Justin Bieber and Chance the Rapper, right? And called Holy. And in the song, Chance the Rapper says, the first step pleases the Father. It might be the hardest to take. And if you make, he says, if you make it to the water, he'll part the clouds. And I sometimes just the taking the step forward is, God, I trust you. And if I perish, I perish. And I'll say this, I'll probably stop being afraid of being killed around the age of 14. Growing up in Tangletown, North Minneapolis, you get very numb to that. But as far as death, as far as dying, my faith is in God, right? Kind of like a tired bird, a little weary bird that's been fluttering around, making his way back to his favorite tree, his favorite branch in his favorite tree, just to watch the sunset. So the Father says, come, my child, rest in my hands. I'll take care of you. I'm not afraid of death as much as I'm afraid of not utilizing this life the Father gave me to the fullest. My biggest fear is not making the impact that I know He has, that He's ordained for me and for you. And so, Father, I pray that you use even our breadcrumbs, that you use our words, that you use our brokenness, that you use our I don't know. But because I believe you are able, even when I am unable, I take the step forward. And I want to say that is probably the most courageous thing anyone can do. I believe that grit to just take a step forward, even close your eyes and just move forward. I think that's what got missionaries off their couches. I think that's what got single parents out of bed. I think that's what got inventors back into the laboratory or the garage to try yet again. I believe that's probably what got pastors and martyrs back into the pulpit and back into the marketplace. It's just, Father, but you are able. There's this song Marvin Winans sang. I don't know if he wrote it, but it says, he sang it like, if when you've tried and you failed in your trying, and none receive, right? The Father is gonna say, well done. Even if you failed and failed and failed, but consisted in the faith of the Father and His integrity, the Father will say, well done. And so I just encourage you, whatever the season you're in, whatever the challenge is, and it can be dark. It can be so dark, my child. Just know whatever little step you can take forward is literally the difference between mountains in your way and then being cast into the sea. I pray that the Father's voice and his hands and his eyes rest upon you, that as you take whatever steps you can, all of heaven will endorse and open gates that may seem welded closed, open gates that seem like they were never there, give you doorways and breakthroughs of escape, whether that is addiction, whether that is financial, whether that is a mental battle, whether that's in your health. Our mere faith in the Father is what matters. Faith in God is true currency. Everything else is a counterfeit. Period. Faith in God is the only currency in heaven. Everything else is a counterfeit. Mere gold, counterfeit. 3 things I love to say. God does not waste these 3 things. He don't waste words. He does not waste pain. He does not waste time. He don't waste words. He don't waste time. He don't waste pain. And only in one thing we cannot do in heaven that we can do right now is worship God from a place of pain. And it be true. God bless you.